Say what you will about Jameis Winston off the field, and we have several times here at Mark Rogers TV. His actions, his conduct off the field is puzzling, it's questionable, and it's often disturbing. On the field, this kid is a phenomenal athlete, and it just starts there. Phenomenal athlete who's got an NFL body, an NFL arm, and even beyond that, the intangibles. He's got the heart of a champion. He comes through in the clutch. He does not let adversity and pressure get to him on the field. And again, the heart of a winner, a champion. He also is developed quickly as a quarterback. In the truest sense of the word, he's a quarterback who makes the right decision at the right time. He made some mistakes, but they were in the first half. A la the BCS championship game last year, mistakes in the first half, subpar performance in the first half. His team hung in there, and then he delivered in the clutch. And then beyond that, Jameis Winston's a leader, a natural-born leader. He misuses that leadership ability, and he abuses it many times. And he has not developed his leadership skills, but he's a natural leader. The players respond to him. His teammates respond to him. He has innate leadership ability. Jameis Winston in the clutch for Florida State, and the Seminoles win it over Notre Dame in a very, very hard-fought, entertaining game between two very talented, well-coached teams. 31-27, Florida State hangs on in Tallahassee. So Notre Dame comes out, and for the first time in a long time, against really an elite team. Notre Dame has beaten good teams under Brian Kelly, but against an elite team. They came out and they showed up big time from start to finish. And even when Florida State came out of the locker room down a touchdown at halftime and delivered on the first two drives of the second half, Notre Dame did not back down. And this Notre Dame football team, if you saw the end of the game, not robbed of a victory, but at the same time, it's difficult to watch when a team is taken out of position to win the game because of penalty. Again, if you look at the rule, if you look at the play, that was a good call by the official. I just hate to see it determined that way, with Notre Dame making the game-winning play with about 13 seconds to play. Everett Golson throwing the game-winning touchdown pass, or what would have been the game-winning touchdown pass, and the illegal pick pulled Notre Dame back again at 31-27, back for a 4th and long at the 18 on a 4th and goal, and they could not convert. And so again, Florida State survives this one, and maybe it's a bit tainted in some people's eyes because of the penalty and because Notre Dame did score, and we see pick plays all over the place, and maybe it's a technicality that the arms were not raised, that it was a blocking motion. But again, look at the play and then look at the rule. It was called correctly by the official. He could have let that go. He could have let that go and the players play out the play, and Notre Dame most likely would have still won the football game. But that's in the rule book, and it was called correctly by the official. Let's also note, in addition to Jameis Winston, a champion's performance by Everett Golson, 31 of 52, as both quarterbacks, even Winston, beyond what Golson had to do, put the offense on their shoulders for Everett Golson. Yes, 23 of 51. Correct that. 31 of 52 for 313 yards. He threw 2 interceptions, 3 touchdown passes, 2 of the 3 to the Admiral's son, Corey Robinson. If this kid's not an NFL prospect deluxe, I don't know who is. He's tall, he's angular, he's strong. He glides just like his dad. A graceful yet powerful athlete. How many times do we see a guy like we did in the NBA, and now we see him 15 to 20 years later, almost the same person on the football field for Notre Dame? Corey Robinson is amazing. Plucked a couple touchdowns out of the air, 8 catches for 100 yards for Corey Robinson. Also a bit of a breakout for Travis Rudolph, the Florida State wide receiver, 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. And the old reliable one, Rashad Greene, had another big night for FSU. He's going to go down as one of the great wide receivers of the modern era. 8 receptions for 108 yards on a night when Winston in the passing game had to take it all on in producing 31 points against Notre Dame. Florida State could not run it against Notre Dame's front seven, 26 carries, 50 yards. So despite having all that NFL talent up front and Carlos Williams toting the football most of the time, again, 26 carries for 50 yards. Of course, the sack yardage plays into that as well in college football. Tarion Folston had a big night. He's an extremely impressive runner for Notre Dame. Quick and can really lower the shoulder and knock some people back. 21 for $120 for him. Again, this was an amazing game between two teams that are two of the top 5 to 10 teams in college football. I have questioned Florida State's schedule at times, but there's no question that they are one of the best teams in college football. The best? I don't know. I don't know that they were the best team last year. And I know that most people are going to jump all over me, but in playing two really good teams in Clemson and Auburn, they didn't have to face the type of week-to-week beating that teams in the SEC have to, or even the Pac-12 or the Big 12. And to a lesser extent, the Big 10, which I still believe is a better conference than the ACC top to bottom. I know it's an argument, but I would still argue the Big 10 over the ACC. Florida State's exceptional. I do believe that they had to win this game, while Notre Dame, because they're on the road in this one, because they play a tougher schedule, that Notre Dame didn't necessarily have to win this. Sure, it would have helped them immensely. They probably would have gone from number 5 to maybe 3 or 2 with a win at Tallahassee. As it is, Notre Dame's not going to slide much. They took on the number 1 or 2 team in the country and took them to the wire. And in the eyes of many who will say Notre Dame should have won the game, they're not going to slip much, and they should be given a shot to get back into the mix for a college football playoff. I don't think there's any question about that, but it's still USC down the road, and it's Louisville, most notably for Notre Dame. But the schedule lightens up for the Irish for the most part. But again, it's USC, it's Louisville, got a date with Northwestern that shouldn't provide much of a barrier there. For Florida State, they continue through their division. They've got a date with Louisville. They've got the ACC championship game as well, and who knows who's going to come out of that division. North Carolina with a big win tonight. Could be Miami, could be a number of teams, because you can throw a blanket over that division. We're seeing what we saw last season when Duke emerged at 5-3 to win that side of the ACC. Notre Dame, Florida State, exceptional football teams, and Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. They are a power to be reckoned with, it appears, not just this season, but beyond, as Brian Kelly even looks toward 2015 for being a better and deeper roster under Everett Golson. And Golson has really developed as a quarterback. We first saw him the first few games of 2012 when he was basically a runner. The reins were placed on him. The offense was limited, and then he really developed throughout that undefeated regular season in 2012, was a much better quarterback at the end in defeating USC and even in getting annihilated by Alabama. Not his fault in the 2012 BCS championship game, but he is light years beyond that. And so this was just a joy to watch two developing quarterbacks, two quarterbacks that have reached a high level in college football, but developing toward what they could be possibly in the NFL. All right, Florida State fans, Notre Dame fans, college football fans, everybody jump in on this one. What do you see out of Florida State? What do you see out of Notre Dame? What can we possibly project for these two schools and what they need to do over the remaining 5 or 6 weeks to make the college football playoff? Let's talk it up here on Mark Rogers TV.